Ever wonder why we do what we do? Did you know some believe there is a way to understand behavior? Understanding the mind and its infinite wisdom can be a daunting task. Yet today, I will explain a theory which has been controversial in the psychology spectrum. Many scholars have paved the path of dedication and accomplishments towards studying operant conditioning, which was made famous by B.F. Skinner. Although Edward Thorndike introduced the law of effect or operant conditioning by observing animals, where B.F. Skinner based his practices. Burrhus Frederick Skinner was born on March 20th, 1904, and deceased on August 18, 1990, at the age of 86, unfortunately by leukemia. B.F. Skinner, as a student, decided to pursue a career in psychology/behaviorism, and as a result, B.F. Skinner enrolled himself at the Harvard University Hamilton, located in Clinton, New York, after deciding that becoming a writer was not for him. While researching at the Harvard University, B.F. Skinner developed a theory in which he called operant condition, or known today as the Skinner box. By way of example, operant conditioning simply means changing the behavior which is given a desired response. This determined different responses called positive and negative reinforcers. Positive reinforcements involves adding something to increase the response. For example, rewarding a pigeon a treat after the pigeon understands how to turn all the way around or peck. The visual response acts like a stimulus to the pigeon, and as a result, the pigeon will turn around when seeing the visual response of the word turn or peck, and awaits for the positive reinforcement, which is the treat of delicious bird pellets. After adding to the increased response, the pigeon will automatically change the behavior, awaiting the tasty treat, which is the positive reinforcement. In this next video clip, this will help illustrate positive reinforcement.
Can pigeons read? This one gives every indication, because it's been taught to distinguish between two words and to behave appropriately. He's learned his different response to each sign by being rewarded with food. So the bird isn't acting independently. Its behavior is shaped by controlling its environment. The first task was to isolate an individual piece of behavior and see how that could be changed. Skinner did this by keeping individual pigeons at about 3/4 of their normal weight, so that the birds were always hungry, and food could be used as an automatic reward. The pigeon was studied in a uniform box, one it quickly grew used to. One piece of behavior, pecking a coloured disc, was measured on a graph. The pigeon learned that pecking the disc produced a reward. Then the behavior of pecking could be studied in relation to how often that reward was offered, or in Skinner's terms, what was the schedule of reinforcement.
The main thing is what we call schedules of reinforcement. Reinforcement is what the layman calls reward, and you can schedule it so that a reward occurs every now and then when a pigeon does something. We usually use a response with a pigeon pecking a little disc, a little spot on the wall, and you can reinforce with food, but you don't reinforce every time. Perhaps every 10th time, or perhaps only once every minute or something like that. There are a very large number of schedules. and they have their special effects. There is a good example of how you can move from the pigeon to the human case, because one of the schedules which is very effective with rats or pigeons is what we call the variable ratio schedule, and that is at the heart of all gambling devices, and it has the same effect. A pigeon can become a pathological gambler just as a person can. Now, the fact that we found that out with pigeons and could prove it by removing and changing the schedule makes it easy for us to interpret the case with the human subject. We don't say that the human subject gambles to punish himself, as the Freudians might say, or gambles because he feels excited when he does so. Nothing of the sort. People gamble because of the schedule of the reinforcement that follows, and this is true of all gambling systems. They all have variable ratios built into them. So what we've learned from the pigeon, it made it possible to interpret this vast field very effectively.
Where does that leave free will? Because we all think we have a choice whether to...
Negative reinforcement means stopping the existing action in order to increase a response. Negative reinforcement can also occur when something is prevented from happening. For example, Skinner explained that negative reinforcement, like pain, can direct behavior. B.F. Skinner created a box where rats were allowed to move around freely. However, there were levers when touched or pulled would cause a slight electric shock when the rats touched the levers, kind of like an electric fence. Whereas eventually the rats understood that by touching the lever in the created box was unpleasant. Therefore, the negative reinforcement stopped the rats from touching the lever. Similarly, this increased their likelihood that the rats would not touch the lever when placed in the box. With this recorded experiment, this can help absorb what has been discussed about negative reinforcement. B.F. Skinner is an American psychologist who won a notable award in 1968 called the National Medal of Science, and wrote two books termed Behavior of Organisms, 1938, and a novel based on his theories, Wounded II, 1948. B.F. Skinner inspired me and many others alike, and as a result, I believe his research has a huge impact on individuals around the globe because his theories today are still being practiced through educators, facilitators, educational institutes, mental health services, and as well his work has a profound effect on individuals who uses scientific theory to help create an improved change within their own discipline and other people's lives.